Okay, let's dive straight in. On April 7th, 2025, President Trump announced a 90-day pause on certain tariffs. 90 days. I mean, that sounds like a blink in global trade terms.
It really is. Very short window.
But it could be, maybe, a real opportunity for people to make some, smarter financial moves.
Yeah, potentially. What's interesting, I think, about a pause rather than just getting rid of them is that it's clearly temporary.
Right. That's clock ticking.
Exactly. It suggests maybe a recalibration, not a total policy change. And knowing it's limited, well, that's crucial for figuring out how to approach it.
Okay. So that's what we're going to do here. We'll unpack what this tariff pause actually is, how it might hit prices, maybe supply chains.
Yeah, ripple effects.
And really the key thing, how whether you're just shopping, running a business, or maybe investing, how you could possibly use this.
Right. What are the actionable takeaways?
Yeah. Our mission, let's say, is to pull out the important bits from this announcement so you can decide what to do.
Okay. So, to really get the significance of this 90-day thing, maybe we should quickly define what a tariff actually is.
Good idea. It's basically a tax.
Exactly. A tax on goods coming into the country, imported stuff.
So, if a company brings in, smartphones from overseas, a tariff is like an extra fee they pay the government.
That's it. And the reasons can vary. Sometimes it's to make those imported phones more expensive.
So you buy the ones made here instead.
Right. Or it can be a bargaining chip in trade talks, or to shield local industries, sometimes even political goals.
Okay. So a pause then.
Yeah.
It was just pressing pause on that tax.
Pretty much. For a set time on specific goods, that extra tax just isn't applied.
So for these next 90 days, no extra cost on certain things.
Correct. Which, can grease the wheels a bit for trade and maybe, just maybe, lower some prices.
Right. And this specific one announced April 7th, last 90 days. You mentioned specific goods. Do we know which ones?
Well, the announcement highlighted trade with certain countries. China was mentioned quite a bit. Okay.
And the idea seems to be easing some of those reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah.
The back and forth ones.
The tit-for-tat stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe give businesses a moment to adjust to whatever the new trading conditions are or are becoming. Interesting. So beyond the sort of political signals, what happens on the ground, like actual changes?
Well, the most immediate thing people might notice is prices.
Yeah. For imported stuff.
Potentially. Because if that extra tariff cost is gone, businesses importing those goods have lower costs.
The big question then is, do we see those savings?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will companies pass that saving along to the consumer? How much of it?
What kind of products are we talking about here? Is it like niche industrial parts?
Some of that, maybe, but also everyday stuff. Think consumer electronics.
Okay. Like phones, laptops.
Yeah, smartphones, laptops, gaming consoles even. Especially if they're made in places like China that were hit by tariffs before.
What else?
Appliances are another big one. Lots of those are imported.
So that new fridge I've been eyeing?
Might be worth checking the price on it in the next few weeks.
Okay. What about clothes, shoes?
Also possible. Anything with a big import component could, theoretically, get a bit cheaper during this pause.
Where would we likely see these price changes first? Big stores.
Probably. The big retailers, the Walmarts, Amazons, Targets, they move huge volumes of imported goods.
Right.
They often react faster to changes in import costs, so yeah, keeping an eye on their prices online and in-store could be telling.
Good tip. So if you've been holding off on a big purchase,
like a fancy TV or that new game console,
this 90-day window might actually be the time to pull the trigger, assuming it was affected by tariffs before.
It's definitely worth investigating.
Okay, so lower prices is one potential impact. What about just getting stuff, like availability?
Supply chains. Yeah, this pause could help smooth things out there, too.
How so?
Well, tariffs can be a real headache for supply chains. They cause friction.
Right, because companies might have to suddenly find new suppliers or change how they make things.
Exactly. All that scrambling takes time, causes delays, can lead to shortages.
We've all seen those out-of-stock notices.
Tariffs can definitely play a role in that. So this pause, this temporary break, it offers some stability.
Less disruption for businesses importing stuff.
For 90 days, yeah. Less complexity, maybe smoother operations for those affected.
And for us, that means?
Hopefully fewer of those annoying, currently unavailable messages when you're trying to buy something.
Okay.
And maybe, just maybe, slightly faster shipping times if things are flowing a bit more freely, more flexibility for retailers and suppliers.
All right. So thinking about me, the listener, the consumer, how do I actually make the most of this? What should I be doing?
Well, if you're already thinking about a biggish purchase, especially electronics,
Laptop's on its last legs.
or maybe that phone upgrade or a new washing machine, now's probably a good time to seriously look into it.
Because those categories were often tariff targets.
That's the thinking, yes. So the potential for savings there is, well, it's real. Even high-end stuff, TVs, consoles might see some movement.
Makes sense. Even a small percentage off a big item adds up.
Absolute. But it's not just the expensive things.
Okay.
Think about clothes, shoes, maybe stuff for the house like decor.
Yeah. Those got hit by tariffs, too.
Many of them did, yeah, making them pricier. So this 90-day window could be a chance to, update the wardrobe for summer or refresh the living room without that extra tariff cost baked in.
So look out for sales on top of this potential baseline price drop.
Definitely. Retailers might be more willing to discount now if their own costs are down temporarily. Check those clearance racks, too.
Like a surprise sale event driven by trade policy. Weird.
It is, yeah. And believe it or not, maybe even check the grocery store.
Groceries? How?
Well, you don't always think about it, but tariffs can affect imported foods, too.
Like what?
Certain imported meats, maybe fruits or vegetables that we don't grow much of here, some processed foods, they saw price bumps from tariffs.
Huh? Didn't realize that.
Yeah, so with the pause, the import cost drops. And hopefully,
the store passes some savings on.
That's the hope. So watch for specials or coupons on those imported items that seemed a bit expensive before. Might get a pleasant surprise.
Okay, interesting. Now, what if I'm listening and I own a business? What's in it for me?
Okay. For business owners, it's a different angle. Mostly about costs and maybe competitiveness.
Right. So if my business imports stuff,
finished goods you sell, parts you use, raw materials, whatever it is, if it was subject to these pause tariffs, your costs just went down temporarily.
So like an electronics shop importing gadgets or a clothing store importing apparel.
Or manufacturer importing specific components from, say, China.
Yeah.
For the next 3 months, those import costs could be noticeably lower.
What does that let a business do?
Gives them options, flexibility. They could lower their prices, try and grab market share, or keep prices the same and just enjoy better profit margins for these 90 days. Either way, it's a temporary boost to their financial position.
And inventory. This seems like a time to stock up.
Absolutely. If you know you'll need imported goods later this year, maybe for the holidays or just regular stock.
Order it now while the tariffs are off.
Makes a lot of sense financially, yeah.
Yeah.
Lock in that lower cost now before the pause potentially ends and prices go back up, whether it's electronics, clothes, furniture parts.
So it's also about managing risk, avoiding higher costs later.
That's a big part of it. Securing inventory now insulates you a bit from whatever happens after these 90 days.
Makes sense. Especially for smaller businesses, maybe. Tighter margins.
Could be particularly helpful for them, yeah. That temporary cost relief gives them breathing room, maybe run a promotion, attract some new customers, boost the bottom line for a quarter.
Okay. Let's switch gears again. What about investors, people playing the markets? How does this 90-day pause look from their perspective?
For investors, it's about looking at sectors and specific companies that are really sensitive to these tariffs.
Like tech, electronics manufacturing.
Exactly. Companies heavily reliant on imported parts or that do a lot of manufacturing in affected countries. A tariff pause could be seen as good news for their costs.
So their stock price might go up.
Potentially, yeah. If investors think their costs will drop and profits might rise, even temporarily, that can boost confidence and the stock value.
Who else might benefit? Retailers.
Could be. Retailers selling lots of those imported goods. If their cost of goods goes down, and maybe they sell more because prices are lower.
Their stock could look more attractive, too.
It's possible, especially those retailers heavily focused on imported merchandise. So yeah, watching both manufacturing and retail sectors tied to these goods seems smart.
And you said this is only 90 days. Does that create, short-term trading chances?
It can, yes. Markets react quickly to policy news. You often see short-term volatility price swings as investors figure out the impact.
So quick dips or jumps?
Could be. For active investors paying close attention, those fluctuations might offer chances to buy or sell at potentially good prices.
What about looking beyond just U.S. companies? international markets.
Yeah, that's worth watching too. Any sign of easing trade tensions, even temporary, can sometimes give global markets a lift.
So maybe look at international stocks or ETFs.
Especially those focused on markets with big trade links to the countries involved in this pause. It's another angle to consider.
But okay, this all sounds pretty positive. There've got to be risks, right? Downsides.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest one is baked right into the announcement.
The 90-day limit.
Exactly. It's temporary. That's the main risk. Once the 90 days are up, what happens?
Tariffs could just snap right back on.
Could do, or be adjusted somehow.
Yeah.
Point is, the lower prices, the cost savings, they might just vanish after 3 months.
So for me, the consumer, that means don't wait too long.
Pretty much. If you see a good deal on something you want, acting sooner rather than later seems wise. Waiting until day 89 might mean you miss out if prices rebound.
And for businesses.
Same logic, really. Enjoy the lower costs now, maybe stock up, but don't base your entire long-term strategy on this temporary situation.
Right. Don't assume this is the new normal.
Exactly. There's still a lot of uncertainty about trade policy down the road. Stay flexible. Be ready to adapt again.
It's a balancing act then. Grab the opportunity, but keep your eyes open.
That's a good way to put it. The global trade picture is still pretty complex.
Okay, so pulling it all together,
Yeah.
this 90-day tariff pause, it's a real, though short-lived window.
Yeah, a tangible set of potential opportunities for consumers, for businesses, for investors.
We're talking potential lower prices on imports.
Maybe smoother supply chains for a bit.
Lower cost for businesses bringing stuff in.
And maybe some interesting movements in the stock market.
But the big takeaway.
It's temporary. That 90-day clock is ticking.
Right. Don't sleep on it if you see a way it benefits you.
Now's the time to look into it, figure out if you want to act.
So, okay, here's something to chew on as we wrap up. Thinking about how interconnected everything is, global trade and all that. How might a really short policy change like this 90-day pause actually tell us something bigger? Could it expose maybe some deeper weaknesses or strengths in certain industries that we wouldn't normally see? What lasting ripples beyond just prices for a few months might this brief pause foreshadow?
That's interesting. Like, what does the reaction to the pause reveal?
Yeah, something to think about long after these 90 days are over.